Welcome to the Stats on Stats Pod. Yeah.
Are we rolling?
We are rolling.
All right, insert banter here. Banter that we can't recreate.
Yeah, we were doing pretty good there. But,
Hi, William.
Hey, good afternoon, y'all.
How you doing?
I'm good. It's been a busy week, really a busy, past month, but I'm doing good. Happy to be here, excited to be here.
We're happy to have you. See, y'all missed all the good banter. We were talking about my ugly toes. We were talking about his shoe collection. Yeah. Like, it was a whole vibe. Y'all missed it, but it's okay. So do you know what's about to happen before we jump into the reason people actually come to watch this show?
Be the R&B quiz, right?
Yes, sir. I love it when people read the one-pager. Okay, so I'm supposed to pause, right, for this one. You can keep that in there, by the way. So we're about to play That's My Jam, 90s R&B edition. Oh, man. That's definitely throwing me off. That song used to be added in post-production, y'all. But anyways, so
now we do it live.
All right. Let's go ahead and jump into the rules. So the rules are we're going to play 4 covers of 90s R&B songs. You have until the end of the song to guess either the name of the artist or the name of the song. If you guess both, it's a flex, but the points are still the same. When you're ready to guess, just go ahead and say pause, or you can just go ahead and guess. Either one's fine. Are you ready?
I hope so. I'm hoping I don't embarrass myself on this part, but let's do it.
All right. Then don't give us excuses like you grew up in the church. So.
No. I just don't know how deep y'all going to go. I don't know if y'all going to do like some deep cuts or what. So we're going to see.
Awesome. All right, Anthony, song number 1.
Maria, Maria. She remind me of a West Side Story.
It's Carlos Santana, right?
Yay! All right, we on a roll. He's in the top tier because he got one. All right. Song number 2.
Boy, I know you want me, I can see it in your eyes. But you keep on frontin', won't you say what's on your mind? Cause each and every time you name me, you give me signs. But when I ask you what's the deal, you hold it all inside. If you wanna be with me, you gotta keep it real.
I know it's right there. Yeah.
Boy, I know you want me just as much as I want you. So come and get my love, it's all here for you. It's really it.
Is that Destiny Child? No.
Yeah.
I even started remembering the lyrics. I was like, what's the name of this song?
It clicks. Yeah.
I remember that music video. Man, those were the days. Anyways, song number 3.
Got myself a notion.
I love this movie.
And one I know that you'll understand, to set the world in motion by reaching out for each other's hand. Maybe we'll discover what we should have known all along.
That one got me too.
Have you seen this movie?
One way or another.
I don't think it's from the Goofy movie, right?
Yeah.
Powerline.
I'll accept that, honestly.
So what was it?
He
Was it
said
Eye to
power. Yeah, it's Eye to Eye, but it's by Tevin Campbell. But
Tevin Campbell,
But it was Powerline though in the movie. So that's like quadruple points. Boy. That's quadruple points. All right, last one, song number 4.
There's a hero. If you look inside your heart, you don't have to be afraid of what you are. There's an answer. If you reach
That makes you want to look to the sky and think about stuff.
And the sorrow that you know will melt away.
You can cry, it's okay.
Godly.
With the strength to carry on.
Yeah, I know the song. Is that Mariah Carey?
Hey, it is, right?
Yeah.
Carrie Hero. All right, 4 out of 4. Was that the first one for the season?
I think so.
Okay. Number one. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the reason people actually come here. So if you're new, welcome. If you already know the vibes, welcome back. I'm Jordan, aka Jay, aka the Chosen One, aka Big Stepper, and I am here with 2 co-hosts.
Yeah, I am Tiffany B. We're excited that you're here with us today. And also we have DEM Tech Folks with us. So
I'm just Reginald.
All right.
I'm a nerd. I'm sorry.
He's also the co-host of DEM Tech Folks. So anyways,
all right. So for everybody else, we want to make sure we get you introduced to our guest for today. So William, what we would like for you to do is tell everybody who you are, where you're from, where you're at right now, and what it is that you do.
Yes, thank you for having me, Tiffany, Jordan, Reginald. Pleasure to be here. Happy to be here. So my name is William Hill. I am a staff software engineer at a data engineering company called Meroxa. I am from a very small town in Mississippi called State Line, and I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia.
Is it just like it's state line because it's right on the state lines?
Indeed, we didn't get creative at all. We just went there.
I was going to ask that question, but I was just like, that is the name? Okay.
All right.
Tiffany's from a place where the street names are after her family.
Yes. But we're a little more creative with the names. Okay, cool. Well, welcome to the show. Like I said, we're going to end with your intro out the way. Why don't you kick us off with telling us how you got into tech?
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, mentioned that I grew up in a very, very small rural town. So tech wasn't really a thing, or, really not exposed much to it. But my first exposure to anything like that was video games. So that is what first piqued my interest, going all the way back to I was like 3 or 4 years old playing the old school NES, like Duck Hunt and like the original Super Mario and that type of thing. So I've been playing video games since I was like, it's basically as early as my motor skills allowed me to. So then as I continued to grow, get older, different game systems came out and stuff like that. Just my natural curiosity was like, oh, how are these things made? And someone's like, oh, it's made with something called code, so, but I still didn't know what any of that meant. As I was growing up or whatever, but I remember what was really formative. My dad he scrapped up and went to Best Buy and got me a Sony Vaio desktop computer for my 14th birthday. And that is kind of what really put me on the path. So I knew I wanted to enter the tech field and be a software engineer since I was 14 years old. So I still didn't learn how to code until I got to college, just because, again, resources are not like I was on dial-up internet, so I wasn't like the resources are like they are now. But yeah, that was what piqued my interest.
Were you one of them people that play Duck Hunt and you put like the gun right up to the TV?
No, I put it right up to the TV. I gave it a little bit of distance, I wasn't back there like the dude from the Olympics that, that was just eyeballing it. But I didn't get right up on it.
I did.
Me too. You're like sliding it around the yes, I love that.
The game be cheating. I hit him. But
oh yeah, the hit detection was off.
Yeah, your story is really inspiring. I got a son. We were just talking about it earlier. I have a son that's 11 years old, and that's all he wants to do too, play games. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you chose your path at 14, the fact that my son's 11, I'm like wondering if it's going to click for him too, because right now he just likes playing games in the sandbox, creative games. I think that's really, really dope, man. I can't wait to get home and tell my son your story. Like, this could be you, son.
Hey, man, I love what I do, but I don't know if I made the right choice. I should have just kept playing video games. I could have been a Twitch streamer. I'll do all right for myself as an engineer, but man, I should just record myself playing video games. I didn't see the vision.
I know, right? That's where the money is. Well, you did this thing called Black Guys Code, and we'll talk about that later because I want to hear about that when you talk about coding. But
and the reason that he says we're going to talk about it later, because what we want to do is we want to jump into a demo, because you went from gaming to coding, and now you're out here training people on AI, right? Like all types of stuff. So we would love to start off with a demo.
Well, can I say something before we do the demo? So I just want to explain to people how persistent I am because I basically stalked this guy. Okay. Like lightly though, like it was a light stalking. So we saw him at the AI Academy and he was teaching this class. We're going to get into the demo, but he was teaching this. I was like, Tiffany, we got to get him. But see, I'm also not rude. So there was no point in time I could talk to him. So then I saw him again at BitCon. And so once again, I'm not rude. So when I saw you, you were at lunch talking to people. And I was like, we really have to get him. So then I took it to another level and slid into his DMs. And that's how we got him here. But just remember, persistence pays. Okay, we can go ahead and get into the demo now.
Anthony, put some demo music, right?
I don't know where to go from there. That was
I appreciate the persistence. Yeah.
sound like you a hard man to get a hold of, man. My goodness.
Man.
Popular guy.
Look,
Popular guy.
Look, I try not to be. Like, I just try to do my thing and go home. Like.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'm happy to share. So yeah, I'll jump just very quickly into part of the demo that I did at BitCon. And I was primarily talking about retrieval augmented generation and AI agents. So for those who may be uninitiated, retrieval augmented generation is a way to essentially feed a large language model new data. So large language models, you know, whenever you first work with them or try them out, they can kind of seem like magic, right? Where it's almost a sense of wonder. It's like, man, I remember the first time I tried ChatGPT, I was on there for like 3 hours, just putting in different prompts and trying stuff because it just felt like, even though with me having been in the tech field for like 11, 12 years now, it still, you know, was one of those revolutionary pieces of tech that comes along ever so often. So, but even though it felt like magic, it's really just data, you know? And the thing is, that even though these large language models are trained on an incredible, you know, incredibly large corpus of data, they still don't know everything. You can still hit the edge of their knowledge. And that can lead to trouble, right? Because you have some models that will do something called hallucinate, which is meaning they will very confidently give you a wrong answer. And if you don't have the proper context, because a lot of times if we're asking questions about something, we're asking questions for a reason, right? Because we don't know the answer. So, but if you don't even know the context around it, it can give you a very confident wrong answer and you won't even know. You just kind of assume it's right because, you know, we assume it knows a lot or almost everything. But retrieval augmented generation, what that allows you to do is actually feed the large language model or augment its generation ability with new information that it may not be trained on. So, and again, just in the interest of time, I'll keep it kind of quick, so I'll only do part of the demo. As you can see from my shirt, WNBA, I'm a big basketball fan in general. So with the context of the demo, we're going to use basketball. So as you can see, this is a very, very short script. This is written in Python, and I'm using a couple external packages that I'll very, very quickly walk through, just these, you know, under 30 lines of code. So what we want to do here is we want to attempt to reach the edge of knowledge of a particular large language model. So in this case, we're going to be using Llama 3. So we install a few dependencies. We install, in this case, we're not using Llama anymore. So that one's, you can kind of ignore that one. But we're using some stuff from LangChain. So LangChain is a library that allows you to interact with different large language models and interact with like a comment interface. So we have the string output parser, we have this chat template, and those are going to help us basically structure first the chat template, structure the prompt that we want to give to the large language model, and then the string parser helps us, you know, parse the output into a string that we can then print out. And then we have a .env file that we're going to load, then the native Python OS package, and then another model from LangChain, which is Chat Grok. So Grok is an online inference interface that actually hosts several large language models that you can interact with. So we are going to use a Grok. We have a Grok API key that we're going to set as a variable here that we're going to then use to authenticate to Grok. So with Grok, we then can choose which model we want to use. In this case, we want to use an open source model that was created by Meta called Llama 3. It's the 8 billion parameter model. And then we have the prompt template that we reference. So we can, say like, write a joke about this topic. Tell me this, write a poem about this topic or what have you. In this case, the topic is going to be what we enter in from the user input. In this case, we just say, teach me about this topic. So I'll make this a little bigger to see if that helps. And let's run this. So in this case, again, basketball guy here. I'm going to say, who the all-time leading scorer in NBA history? So, again, I'm a basketball stats nerd, very topical, right, that I'm on the Stats on Stats podcast. So, like, this looks right.
But it's not.
It's like, hey, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who scored, an incredible 38,387 points. This was true.
But now it's LeBron.
Exactly. This was true until around 2 years ago. So we have reached the edge of the knowledge, at least in this particular topic, of what this model knows about. Because this hasn't been true for almost 2 years. So we can even see it actually referenced LeBron James in this answer. It says 35,237 and counting. So this was actually had to be trained a while ago. Because obviously LeBron has surpassed the 38,387 mark. So we see this is, quite old, at least in this particular, the answer they gave here. And the thing is, these models are non-deterministic, right? So I can even give that same exact prompt again. It may give me a different answer. It's formatted differently, but it still says Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Not correct. But again, if you don't have the proper context around that, you wouldn't know, because it's very confident in this answer, right? So this is where we can, use retrieval augmented generation to try to provide new or up-to-date information to these large language models. So there's a couple of different approaches of being able to do that. One approach that I showed in the workshop that I won't get to here, just for time's sake, is using what's called a vector database, where essentially you can read in, whether it's documents, in whatever format, whether PDF, CSV, even taking, HTML and, structuring in a certain way, and you turn it into what's called in vector embeddings. So essentially you feed it to a vector, an embedding function, and then it will take that text document and put it into like these numerical embeddings in vector space. And what that allows you to do is basically do similarity searches.
Can I interject here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because a lot of times when we talk about vector, we use like the pants shirt model or like the pants or the shoe model, stuff like that.
No, I want to hear the shirt pant model.
So
yeah, I actually haven't heard that one myself.
So like a shirt will get assigned a numerical value of 1, right? Mm-hmm. And then that'll be a red shirt will get like a 1, 2, and then a green shirt will get a 1, 3. Mm-hmm. So then it takes that, but then like a pair of pants will get like a 5 or something like that. And again, I'm keeping this really, really simple, right? Because if you look at the actual inputs into the large language model, it's like all kind of ASCII keys and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So when it starts using the vectors, it says, okay, I have a 1, that means it's a shirt. And then I have a 1, 3, that means it's a shirt, but it's a different color. So when it's starting to look and say, okay, I want to understand how this all works and how we can like relate one to another and understand, those vectors are the important piece that we have to like kind of understand how it works and how it thinks, right? Because, ultimately, that's how, and then when it ties into the APIs and stuff like that. So I'm trying to like make it overly simple. I have like when I present it, I have like a little board and stuff like that. But that's pretty much how it works. Like a 1 is a shirt, 1 is a shirt, 2 is a red shirt. 1, 2 is a red shirt, 1, 3 is a green shirt. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about vectors and how it thinks and how it assigns a numerical value to find the data that it needs to find and how it relates that data. So like you say like, okay, I need to find an NBA stat. So an NBA stat will be 1, right? And then a WNBA stat will be like maybe 1, 2. So then it's like, okay, so compare the two, and that's how I understand. That's how the vector database finds its information. And then we start talking about, semantic databases and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And it gets really, really interesting. But again, I really didn't want to interject and talk this long, so I'm gonna throw it back to you.
Grandma, did you understand any of that? Call me and let me know.
Yeah, because you can have, whether it's just more, I'm blanking on the name right now, but almost the similarity in like words, Levenstein distance, something like that. You can almost think about it like that, where cat and car, there's one letter difference, right? So if you plot them in vector space, they're going to be close to each other, right?
Right.
If you're looking
Exactly.
at, if you're looking at, whether it's Levenstein distance or something like that, to calculate the similarity in just the actual tokens of the word.
Exactly.
Or
Tokens.
like,
That's another one. Sorry.
Look, I just want to finish the demo, right?
Sorry.
Let's get into the numbers on the NBA stats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But again, because that's a whole different conversation. Like I said, once you get into the semantic similarities, right? Because you could have cat and kitten. They're going to be semantically similar, right? So they'll be plotted close to each other in vector space.
Preach, brother.
Oh my God. Grandma.
So, but yeah, we'll get back, and get it back into like the rest of the demo so I can finish that up. But yeah, in this case, we see that we reach the edge of the knowledge. So that's one way to do it. Is as we talked, kind of went off on the tangent about vector stuff. So basically, storing those into a vector database. You give it a prompt instead of the prompt going directly to the LLM. It hits the vector database first, and you can give it basically a K number, like a K nearest neighbors or something like that, to say, hey, give me the 5 most relevant semantically similar chunks from this vector database. Then you can feed those into the large language model and let it structure the output for you. So that's one way to approach it. We're actually going to approach it a little bit differently. So still a RAG process, but we're actually going to use agents to do it. So clear this. So AI agents, you can think about as almost like autonomous little pieces, autonomous little workers that can then collaborate to accomplish a larger task. So in this case, we're using a tool called Crew AI, and it's a really clean interface for allowing you to build AI agents. And one of the cool things is that you can, for each agent, it doesn't have to be backed by the same large language model. So then you can start to do things. It's like a technique called mixture of agents, where you can start to have an agent that may use the Llama model that we're doing. You may have an agent that maybe use Claude's Anthropic model. You may have an agent that uses the OpenAI model. So basically, you can now build these agents with different types of expertise, with different type of data that they've been trained on, and have them to collaborate to get. It's almost like coming together with people with different, like actual people with different expertise and different viewpoints, and then them collaborating to attack a common goal. So in this case, we see we have the Crew AI. We import that. Then we'll briefly look at this agents and task file that we define both the agents and the task. So if we look at the agents file, again, I know I'm blowing through this pretty quickly, but we define two different agents here with specific roles. We have an MBA researcher agent, and we give it a role, a goal, and a backstory. And we also say which LLM we want it to be backed by. In this case, we're also using that Llama 8 billion model, 8 billion parameter model. But one of the interesting things here is where the RAG part comes in, is that we can also give it a tool to use. In this case, this tool can actually go out and search the internet for new information for us. So this tool is basically using an NBA API package that you can just download from pip or whatever. It's a Python package. It's basically a wrapper of the NBA Stats API. And we can now use this to actually go out and search the NBA Stats API and give us back information. So again, I won't go through like every line of code, but just understand like this basically will say and again, we can say the top whatever, and it'll get the all-time leaders in a specific NBA statistical category. So the second agent we have is a writer agent. And what that does is that you can basically feed it that statistical data that we fetch from the researcher, and then it'll actually write out an interesting blurb about those particular stats. So it won't just, it not only would it just give you back the stats like in raw data, it'll then basically editorialize about them. Then we can quickly look at the task. So we have 2 tasks here. So we basically write 1 task per agent. So in this case, we say get the all-time leaders. So this is a task, it looks fairly similar if you've done anything with prompting before. where it says that analyze the user prompt and first determine which statistical category they're interested in, and essentially go and fetch the data for that statistical category. And we have an expected output, and then we can pass what agent is expected to complete this task. And just the same, we have a all-time, basically write a summary. So again, we want to pass in that data that we got from the previous task, and we want to write a clear and concise summary of the all-time leaders of a specified statistical category. So if we think back to what the previous example we saw that we wanted to ask who was the all-time leading scorer, and it told us Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which is, an outdated answer. So if we jump back into the main file, we set up the researcher and the stats writer, we set up the two tasks, and then we assemble the crew. We have the agents here, we have the task, and then we can actually kick off the crew in our main function. So if we run this really quickly, so we can actually now see the crew quote unquote think, because I turned on the verbose flag. So we can say, hey, I need to determine which statistical category are they interested in. In this case, I said, all-time leading score or whatever. So they then was able to infer like, oh, that means points, right? So then it was able to go and basically just fetch the raw data. You see it again, thinking, I think I know the final answer. So now we have a structured output of the data. And then we see that chain is finished, and we're passing it to the writer. And we get this human readable summary where the all-time leading scorers are who's who, a basketball legend. At the top of the list is LeBron James, who has dominated the league for nearly 2 decades and scored an astonishing 40,607 points. If we go to Basketball Reference, and obviously the season just started, so I think they played last night, if I remember. I think the Lakers played last night. We can see this is actually up to date, like as of right now.
That's cool. That's hot fire.
So yeah, that's a.
Can you ask it if the Hornets are going to make it to the playoffs?
Ooh, it's one of those things. Do you want to tell the truth or
hallucinate?
Hallucinate for me.
Yeah. I mean, LaMelo's balling right now, but that's a tall task. The boy's cooking right now. He's out there just shooting one-legged threes and whatnot. But ooh, that's it could happen.
We already know the answer.
I know that. I love that definition of hallucination. It tells you to answer the wrong answer with confidence. I know a lot of people that hallucinate a lot.
Yeah.
I am one of them. You got something to say? Say it. Say it with your chest.
Hey, so I'm gonna get some water.
All right. Thank you for that. That was awesome.
Yeah.
We'll be sure, because you have that up on GitHub, right?
I do, and I think I probably made some updates I can push. But yeah, if I don't have the updates, I'll be sure to get them to you.
Awesome. We're definitely going to add that to the YouTube description.
Sounds good to me.
GitHub's the best.
All right, Tiffany, you want to get us back on track?
Yeah, we already talked about kind of what got you into this role. And you just showed us, your demo, but could you tell us, for people who are listening who would love to be a software engineer, what is a normal day like for you?
And it can change from day to day. Working at a startup, you have to wear a lot of hats. I've kind of run the gamut throughout my career, I guess, at like different types of companies, different sizes of companies. I started my career at a government research lab, and that day-to-day looks very different than what I'm in now. Now, a lot of it, of course, involves writing code. But a lot of times you're going to be reading code more than you're writing it. So it definitely involves a fair amount of research. It involves a fair amount of, reading of code, reading of documentation, meetings, which I typically hate, but they're important. They have to happen. But yeah, like it's typically going to be me working with at least in my current role, like working with my PM, prioritizing what are things that needs to be done. Because again, there's always something that needs to be done, but you can't just always do everything. Prioritizing what needs to be done. Trying to scope out, the individual pieces and tasks that need to be done and when they can be like tangibly and feasibly delivered. And then obviously doing like a lot of testing, and I even interface with customers a lot more and more these days, to the point where, our chief revenue officer has, been providing me training and the rest of the team training on how to talk to and interact with customers as far as trying to close deals and stuff, which is kind of new for me. Like, most of my career, like I said, even going back to my first role, was working with subject matter experts who, for the most part, knew what they wanted. They were the experts, and it was like me then trying to write a tool for them to, make their lives a little easier. But a lot of times working with like external customers, they don't necessarily always know what they want. So you almost got to be able to extract the information out of them, because building the wrong thing kind of is a drain on everybody's time. Like, I could go and build this really cool thing, present it to the customer, and it's like, oh, we don't want that at all. We're not willing to pay for that. So yeah, it can be different things, like especially in a startup environment.
So I had a quick question, because you touched on something that a lot of people in the IT, especially guys that are used to being behind the keyboard, and that's interacting with customer, being customer facing, learning that new muscle of like, I need to be in a sales motion. I need to be able to understand and explain to the customer what they want, when technically all I wanted was just sit behind the keyboard and start coding, right? So talk about that transition for you.
It's definitely different, because I've never wanted to go down like a managerial track, really. So I've never really wanted to, have to manage people or anything like that. That's just more been a personal choice for me. So I've always just been like an individual contributor. But like, as I mentioned, like in the startup realm,
I see life.
Yeah, like in the startup realm, you kind of have to wear a bunch of different hats. So being able to go out and, like I said, you can't just really depend on the PM or management and stuff like that all the time. Whether it's me having to go out to like conferences and do demos, or expos and stuff like that, and do demos in front of customers, or even just doing demos for online, like virtually, or even just like we have a customer already in the pipeline and trying to solve their need. Because the thing is, I can sit there and build really, really cool stuff, or wait till my PM tells me to do it. But if the customer doesn't want it, it's not going to sell. So have to be able to talk to, interact with those customers and say like, hey, what is the problem that you have? It's almost not even say like the product that you need first. It's like, what's the problem that you have? Because now if we start to dig into like the problem that they have, like now I can try to figure out like, all right, this is how we can particularly approach solving this problem. So it's not even necessarily selling the product, it's selling a solution to their problem.
So what I like is you got to talk about is, we all talk about hard skills. Now you're getting into the realm of soft skills, which is something that not a lot of people have. I mean, on this show and our show, right, they talk about, tools to help you get there, like, Toastmasters and things like that. What kind of things did you do to develop your soft skills, since you were used to being the guy behind the keyboard?
Some of it, like my dad, even from a young age, kind of put me in this place where I had to speak, in front of people, like publicly or whatever. Like he was a county supervisor for like 24 years until he retired. So he was always out in the community, speaking with people, and stuff like that. So, and there would be, several times when I would, tag along, he would make me say stuff. I was like, I didn't want to say stuff, but I had to. So that was probably the first thing of trying to, even just, learning how to, is just watching him, how he interact with people. Like he was a person who didn't meet strangers. I'm naturally introverted, but like if he would go out, we can just be like in Walmart or somewhere. And I was like, and he's just sitting in there and, chatting it up with this person. I was like, Dad, who was that? He's like, I don't know. But, but he would like be able to just chat them up and stuff. So that was probably kind of like my first exposure or whatever to it. And then even when I got to college, I was a TA both in undergrad and grad school. So then that, in a way, like, again, I also come from a family of educators. So that was a way of basically, in that way, the students, I guess you could say, were my customer in that regard, as far as being able to help them, try to figure out the solutions to the test or to the homework or whatever. So, or how to study and that type of thing, especially in grad school, because I had to run a lab. And then another thing I did, this is running concurrent with my first job, is that I taught part-time at a coding boot camp at the Hackbright Academy out in San Francisco. So that also then allowed me to be able to, interact, speak with people, especially people who had varying technical backgrounds. So then being able to relay these, things that, given my education and background and stuff like that, that may seem commonplace to me, but are very, very foreign concepts to other people. Because I had students in that class who, in the Hack Bright Academy, for those who are uninitiated, is a coding boot camp for all for women. And so I would have students in classes who range from being stay-at-home moms who hadn't, necessarily, who hadn't been like in the corporate workplace for years, all the way up to women who had PhDs in different disciplines. So it was a wide range of exposure to tech and technical knowledge and backgrounds, and I had to be able to relate to all of them so that they could, learn and get value out of it.
This is why this brother is so hard to get in touch with. Everyone wants to talk to him. He's a genius.
Genius is that's a stretch right there.
Okay, so for you, when you think about, okay, I'm gonna go back because I know when we were talking before, one of the things that you mentioned was how you are kind of passionate about making sure that you make AI accessible for people. Could you talk about your motivations for that?
Yeah, I think because it's one of those things where AI is here to stay. Like the train has left the station, and I know people had varying opinions of it, right? Where some people kind of had more of the fear of it, of like, oh God, is this going to take my job or something like that? And then you had people on the other end who were very, very excited about the possibilities of what, can be done with it, like the boost in efficiency and being able to almost this possibility of a single person now building an entire company, with AI to, leverage and work for them. So, and I've hoped from what I've learned and continue to learn, again, I in no means call myself an expert, but like hope to kind of be able to, talk to people and bring them in the middle where, I think, like I said, those are kind of the two extremes right now. Although there's absolutely merit and validity to both of them, but I'm hoping to bring people more so in the middle to understand, like, it's not Skynet yet. We're not getting into like the Terminator or anything like that yet, which I hope we never do. But to be able to help them understand like what is actually possible with it. And I think sometimes you can also live in a bubble, right? If you're in the tech world and stuff and trying to stay on the cutting edge, where my sister, who is the lead counselor for the city school system that she lives in back in Mississippi, and I was telling her she was trying to accomplish something. I was like, oh, just put it in ChatGPT, and she was like, huh? And this was like a month or so ago, and she was just fascinated by it, because she had never used it before. And, so many of us, like I said, who are in the tech world, tech adjacent, whatever, it's kind of commonplace to use it now. There's still a lot of people who are not necessarily familiar with it. So, and just the same, I see like, I think I saw a graph on Twitter the other day. It's like, oh, Twitter's a bubble. Most of the general public has never heard of like Claude or Perplexity, those other tools outside of ChatGPT. So I think it's important, and I'll even just be frank here, especially for Black people, for us to understand and know what's possible, because it's frankly can and will lead to another economic revolution. And a lot of times that these economic revolutions come along, we can even look at like crypto, scammy or not, a lot of people made a lot of money off crypto.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important for us to understand what is possible, how we can use it, because again, it's frankly a lot of money is going to be made one way or another with AI. And I think it's important for us to get our piece of the pie, because historically we have not gotten our piece of the pie. We've historically been cut out of it. So that's one of the reasons I hope more and more of people can learn about it.
So when you're talking, first of all, everything you said is really, really great. So when you're talking about, when you're having the AI conversation, do you start by saying, you know what? Actually, you're using traditional AI every day. You just don't know it. Like when you go to Netflix, the algorithm that gives you your recommended movies, you're using Siri, you're using, your Google Translate. That's AI. It's not the generative AI, but it's traditional AI. So I see a lot of people tend to have a easier transition when you're like, oh, you explain like, okay, I'm actually using it. It's just a better and more smarter version of AI. So that conversation is really, really good to have. And when you talk about the economy, right? So there's this thing called WorkTrex, which basically does a lot of statistics and stuff like that. They're saying like countries as a whole, reservation to using AI can affect their actual GDP, right? So we're talking like countries that use AI versus countries that don't embrace AI versus countries that don't. We're talking like GDP changes, right? Because I mean, I don't want to get into stats, but like if you ever, it's like I think it's aka.ms/WTI. It's basically a work trend index, and it tracks all these types of AI revolutions and how these numbers work, right? And also you got to look at it like this, right? The inflection point that we're at, right? So we look at the internet, we look at, cell phones and stuff like that. AI did what they did over like 10 years in like 3 months. So you better get on the train. You know what I mean? I mean, because, we're talking like, I think it was like 100 million users with ChatGPT within like 3 months.
Wow.
And we're talking like all the other technology that came along, it took them 10 years to get there. It took ChatGPT 3 months. So if you're not on the AI train, what are you going to do with your life in the future here? Cause
Look. Reginald came on here with an infinity ring. And now he's over here spitting hot fire.
So it excites you, right? The whole the frontier, the AI, the landscape, it's exciting. It's thrilling, right? If you really get into it, you're like, man, this is awesome, right? Sorry.
Can you just show the camera that infinity ring? That thing is huge. My man is over here with like 58 diamonds.
Oh, I didn't know you were talking about that. My bad. I thought you were talking about like my enthusiasm and stuff like that. So it's, and I know I'm gonna dovetail into one last thing, and then I'm gonna let you kind of talk. I read about something called "How Do I Pursue a Career in Software Engineering When AI Can Code Better Than Me?" Talk about that one. I love that title, man.
Yeah, that was a talk that I did with Career Labs. So Career Labs is a program that basically trains underrepresented groups for more like cloud computing roles and the like. So really, really dope program. Shout out to Sheldon Gilbert with Career Labs. And funny story with that, I was not supposed to do that talk. The CEO of my company, the Bars Brown mentor of mine, you talking about somebody who's hard to get a hold to. That brother got his, doing a lot of stuff, but friend and mentor of mine, and just somebody I really, really respect. So he had a schedule conflict, so I stepped in and do the talk like kind of last minute. But yeah, it's one of those things where I know I just dropped several names. I'm going to drop another one. Another good friend of mine who I've heard other people say it, but I'm always going to give him credit for it. Fred Burns. He was like, AI is not going to take your job. People who know how to use AI will take your job. So it's one of those things where, whether it's with like Claude now, like even that was the code editor that I had pulled up a minute ago. It looks like VS Code is a fork of VS Code, but it basically has large language model interfaces built right in where you can just say like, hey, adjust this code for me, and it will take the entire context of your code base and make changes. And it's pretty incredible. I mean, it was already incredible that I could just say like take code snippets from my code base and drop them into Claude or to ChatGPT, and it make modifications for me. Now I don't even have the extra step of like copying and pasting. Right now I have the interface built right into my code editor, and it can take into account essentially the full context of my code base. So if you've worked with a code base of any size, one of the learning curves is just like basically you're trying to get into someone else's headspace to understand the decisions they made when writing this code. And that takes a lot of time and expertise, right? But now with these tools, it can just do it essentially automatically. So yeah, that just a little scary, right? Like it's one of those things where like is the software industry cannibalizing itself? Because it's like are you basically putting yourself out of a job? But one of the things is, and that's kind of like going back to this talk, is there's still the human element. Like these things are not perfect. There's been times where I've been using, using Cursor to, automatically make some changes to my code, and it's made some critical errors in that, like, it will just wipe out parts of my code, you know. So where, and then I would run it again, and it was like, this is broken worse than before. Then I was, the problem I was trying to debug is now it's worse. So those type of things can still happen, right? And I saw, gosh, I wish I knew who it was attributed to, but it was, I think, a guy who was like at Meta or something like that. He was like a, higher up engineer, like staff level or something. And he was talking about with these tools, 80% of my previous value has almost been reduced to zero. Meaning that like I had built these extensive knowledge of different APIs, different programming languages, different things like that. And, learning the syntax, how it all works together, optimizations, this type of stuff, it can do almost all of that for me. But that other 20% of my skill set has been 10x. Understanding how to solve the business problems. Understanding like, hey, how do we make money? What's the actual problem we're trying to solve? Like understanding that. Understanding how to talk to and interface to customers. Understanding, are we building the right thing? Like all of those skills now have been 10x. Like understanding at a higher level, or even just like more of like the system design stuff. Those are the things, and I know that's more so speaking from like, maybe someone who's a little bit more advanced in their career and stuff, but like even people who are more on the junior side, still being able to understand like, yes, I can come in and, this thing can code quicker, faster, better than me or whatever, but how can I come in and understand how I can provide value? Whether it's value to the company, value to the customers, or what have you. So it's like kind of this mindset shift where you can almost think about it's another level of abstraction, right? It's just like anything else. We had the abstraction of, everything compiles down to binary, right? Ones and zeros. We had the abstraction of assembly. We had the abstraction of C and C++ and Python, just, abstracting a way to make it easier for the human. So this is kind of another level of abstraction where now you still have to be able to understand the problem and choose how to solve the right problem because you can move very fast in the wrong direction. So I think it's just like, again, taking all those under skills you talked about, like the soft skills or whatever, and really refining those now.
So as excited as Reginald is, don't be surprised if you get a DM from DEM Tech Folk.
Well, I'm definitely going to hook up with you because, I love the fact that you love AI just like I do, and also the fact that you're going out spreading the word really excites me too. And I would love to even have you come on one of our, not only our platform, but
we go.
Not only our platform, but we have like all of us have like little conferences and stuff we go to where we love to have people like you come and deliver a message to young up and comers and stuff like that to have them understand like, hey guys, this guy right here can tell you all you need to know about the direction you need to go and inspire people and stuff like that. And that's what I think I like most about your story, the inspiration behind it, right? So
I'm going to pause us because we got to rapid fire now.
I was going to ask you, as a person who does software engineering, but who also has a background in cybersecurity, because that's what your degree is in, when you think about like the AI and how it can assist you with your coding, like what are your thoughts in terms of in the next 5 years with being able to provide security as well, right? Because we want to be secure from the beginning, from the code. How do you see it being able to assist you with that as well?
Yeah, I will mention, even though I did my master's degree in cybersecurity, I jumped straight into engineering. I haven't worked a day in cyber.
I did see that.
It was kind of interesting how that happened. Like, that's why I thought that's the direction I thought I was going. But then I got hired as a software engineer. So I'm just, But no, like even still though, there's always going to be security concerns, right? And now the fact that you have AI generated code, again, we can kind of get lazy, where it's like, oh, this can, solve the problem for me. So then you might get a little bit lax in checking it, like, is this coded securely? Like, oh, am I not exposing this API key? Am I not, leaving things in plain text? Because again, you're kind of letting, especially as you're using tools that now like I said, can interact and interface with your entire code base. You have to be a little bit more diligent around actually doing the code reviews and checking that. And even there's like actual cool tools out there like CodeRabbit, when you push to GitHub, that can kind of do automated code reviews and stuff for you. And so it's like now, oh man, I can just automate this entire process. But you still need, some of that human element in there because yeah, you then can expose like have security flaws and stuff. So I think that's actually, going back to Reginald's previous question, like one of those things that still is gonna need the human expertise around. Because as we're using more and more like AI tools, really in everything, we're gonna need to be able to be diligent around those things. Whether it's even not just from the just pure code standpoint, but like a lot of the biggest hacks happen due to social engineering. So now we have to be careful. You hear about like phone spoofing now, where like with people, with AI that's mimicking people's voices. So you get like a call from like a loved one and it sound frantic. So again, of course, that's going to put you in a certain state.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's going to put you in a certain state to like, want to try to help or provide some information or something. And you've been potentially hacked. So we have to be like, even more diligent around that type of stuff. I mean, because it's not just like text generation. I know most of the conversation we've had around generative AI has been text generation, but you can think about, voice generation at this point, images, video, those type of things can all lead to security issues and security breaches. Where if someone is sending you a very, very, like I said, whether it's believable text, believable voice message or something like that, we have to be very, very diligent around those things now as well.
There's like groups dedicated right now. It seems like there's like cybersecurity groups dedicated to like generating code and then going through and showing like how they can exploit it. It's actually, it's definitely a wake up call for sure.
Gotcha.
I just want to add a real quick point in there, something that a lot of people don't really think about. So when you're using AI tools, it's a large language model. It's a learning model, right? So here's what you got to think about. If you put sensitive data in ChatGPT, it's going to learn your data. So that's something that people don't think about, data protection. Like, oh, let me just fix this thing that I wrote for my company in ChatGPT. ChatGPT now has that information. So another very big security concern that people don't take into consideration when using these large language models.
So we gotta rapid fire before Anthony upcharges us.
With all of the things that you're kind of keeping track of, whether it's coding or AI, how do you take you some time away and just kind of stay grounded when you're not doing anything in tech?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, I can't even deny it. Yeah, that's one of the things. But yeah, really try to take care of myself and unplug. Like, as again, referenced several times, I'm a huge sports guy. One of my small pieces of joy is once I get off work, sit on my couch, have League Pass on. Just this past few weeks have been one of the best times of the year of a sports fan, where you had the World Series, your NFL football, like college football, NBA just started, hockey. I was watching some USA women's national team soccer the other day. So so that's one of my things, is just be able to unplug, just kick back, watching sports or whatever. But then also just trying to take care of myself mentally and physically. I just went to a boxing class this morning that I hadn't been to in a couple months, and I'm cooked right now. So but I feel it's good to move my body and such, and then kind of like for mental fitness, one of the things that I love and just only discovered the past few months is going to sound baths. It's really, really good just for like my mental fitness. It really, it's like my mind is always going sometimes. So you hear about like people trying to meditate. I feel like it's really hard for me to do. So when I go to like sound meditation and sound baths, it's really a nice form of meditation where I can really just kind of relax. It feels like my brain's getting a massage.
I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah, I think all of us were like, what?
Oh my
What is
God, no,
that?
I don't have a single follow-up question about that, to be honest. We could. So
Do you go in the water?
oh my goodness.
No, so that's a different thing. You have the sensory deprivation tanks, which I do want to try, but I haven't yet.
I feel like that's like really claustrophobic, but
Okay. When you think about the future for you, for engineering, for, tech in general, what do you see or what are you hopeful for?
I'm hoping that there is still continued growth in the field. I know there's been a pretty seismic shift in the past couple of years where, gonna show my country here, we had been kind of high on the hog in tech for a while. Where, but then layoffs and stuff started to happen, right? So, we kind of had been pretty recession proof for a while, but then the layoffs hit the tech, industry and stuff pretty hard. So one, it's a paradigm shift that's kind of happened, both from the large enterprise companies even down to the startups where, venture capital funding is harder to come by now and stuff. So one, and that's some of that's due to the macroeconomic conditions, right? So you would hope that those conditions improve, which then would allow just the industry as a whole to improve. But again, we see this shift happening and continuing to come with just like AI. And how do we react to that? How do we upskill? How do we almost recalibrate the skills that's needed? And how do you grow and adapt? That is one of the things I've always loved about my career is that it's not stagnant in any way. You always have to grow and adapt and change to continue to progress. So I think all of those things are there. And then I wouldn't even call it the elephant in the room because, no, it definitely is. But like with DE&I stuff, we've seen like systematic attacks on it essentially, where I think a lot of people misconstrue it, where it's not about giving people who are unqualified, opportunities. It's about, giving opportunities to people who have been historically and systematically excluded from those opportunities. So I think a lot of that is going to be interesting because we saw a lot of people and a lot of companies really put, at least they put their mouth behind it at a certain point, but then they turn around and deprioritized it. So I think that's one of those things that's going to have to, continue to actually be a thing and be a priority, as we're going forward because it has been deprioritized by a lot of places, and it's unfortunate, right? Because like it's almost become a pejorative term in a way, which is absolutely not how it was meant and intended to be. So I think those are just some things that we, in the next 5 to 10 years will definitely be challenges and things that need to be addressed.
So because we are at that time, I wish this could go longer actually, but
You guys could if you want.
see, because we are at that time and I really don't trust him like that. Keep going for the low price of $50 a minute. We gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I know everybody got more questions. You go ahead and DM him. You need his Instagram?
No, I have his LinkedIn. But when he comes on our show, you can come on.
All right, so check this out. This is where I say thank you. So thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, I wish this could go a little bit longer, but our partners don't give us any money. So thank you so much for joining us. Like, we know that time is currency, so we really hope you feel like yours was well spent. Like, really endless gratitude.
Oh, absolutely. I've really, really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you again, for stalking me, as you said. I really, really enjoyed it. So this has been a pleasure. This has been fun.
All right. And William, for our listeners, how can they get in touch with you?
My social media.
You
pretty
can't.
much across. Oh man. Dang, kind of.
How them DMs looking?
Look, I've been working a lot, so I get notification fatigue, and I was like, okay, I'll check it later. And so, charge my head and not my heart. But no, I can be reached at pretty much every social media platform at MJ Hill. So it's at EMJ_Hill. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then, email william.mj.hill@gmail.com. So yeah, those are ways to reach me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. And to everybody else, we are so pleased that you were here for this episode of the Stats on Stats podcast, and we can't wait to see you next time. See ya.